Today we're going to be removing the screen on the iPhone 12. Should only take about 2 minutes. First, you're going to need a pentalobe screwdriver, tri-tip screwdriver, and a Phillips screwdriver, as well as a pry tool and a heat gun. So first thing, remove the two bottom pentalobe screws down here. You're going to want to use a screwdriver that is made of hard metal, so more on the expensive end of $5 to $10. If you go with a cheap one, you're going to get softer metal, and it will strip these screws very easily. They're very soft. Now with your pry tool, go in between the frame and the glass, and we're gonna pop it in like so. There, it's in. Now you scoop it up, it pops right out. Now we're gonna be shimmying it around. Turn your device off first thing. I just leave it on because the old LCD is worth money, so I like to make sure I'm not breaking it along the way. But if your screen's already broken, it doesn't matter. Now, this opens like a book, but this way, like so. You don't want to go too far this way. Just keep the screen more at like a 60-degree angle. With your tri-tip screwdriver, remove these two screws. First thing, either with your fingernail or maybe a plastic spudger. Fingernail's better. You're going to unplug these connectors. First one is the battery connector to stop any voltage from going through the battery, through the motherboard. Do not use metal, do not use this to pry it open. You could possibly short the board. I'm using my fingernail. Pop the LCD wire out. Now pop the digitizer wire out. Now we're going to have to remove the selfie camera and the connector to the motherboard. So use your tri-tip screwdriver. Remove these 4 screws on the metal plate. Now disconnect that wire. Boom. Now we're going to remove this ear speaker, Face ID, selfie cam combo. It's all one part. Use your tri-tip for these 2 screws. The Phillips screwdriver for these 2 screws. Now you're going to use a heat gun to heat up this area as well as this area. So heat this side of the glass as well as this side. You're going to want to keep the heat moving and active. If you stay in one spot, you're going to melt the speaker. So just stay around. We're going to hold it for about 6 seconds on each side in total. Now with your pry tool, you're gonna go around and just carefully remove the little pieces that are all connected to each other, like so. Very simple. The key is heat. It's all glued down with a tiny little drop of glue. So if you use heat, you could literally just lightly pull it off with less force, but definitely not enough force to rip the wire. Now take your new screen and we're going to put the speaker on first. Just follow the natural design that it has. It's pretty straightforward. Now it is in there. Flip the ear speaker over onto its wires. Sometimes you have to shimmy it a little bit. There we go. You're gonna wanna look at it and just make sure everything is flush. When you look at it this way, it should look flat and not crooked like that. Just wanna make sure it is flat and there's no real air between it. Now we're gonna screw it back together. They're tri-tip screws. Now we put this back on. First, plug in your ear speaker. Now with these connector wires, when you plug them back in, if you're having trouble, just hover the wire with your pointer finger over the connector and just do circular motions until it doesn't really move anymore. Then lightly put pressure on it and it'll click. Then put medium pressure on it to make sure. Now, same thing with the digitizer cable. Plug that in. It's It's pretty easy. It's hard to break these connectors. Some other makers of phones make their connectors very weak. Apple's are pretty strong, but you don't want to use hard force. Never use hard force plugging these in. If it doesn't go in with soft to medium force, it's not on there correctly. Also, be careful not to get any fingerprints on these cameras and this sensor. That's a Face ID. Even with a fingerprint on it, it could mess up the functionality. It'd never work again. Now put your plate back on there. We will screw that in. Now we're gonna fold it back over. Make sure it's aligned and pop it in. Now put your bottom screws back in there. This is just magnetized. I usually keep multiple screws on here at a time. It's kind of an advanced trick. Now let's see it turn on. It'll work perfectly. All right guys, so that's how to replace the screen on the iPhone 12. Apple made it very easy. It should only take you about 2 minutes. Be sure to like and subscribe for more destruction and repair videos to come.